On this rock I stand. Vaccine mandates and vaccine passports are immoral, they're unpatriotic, and they're not on. And instead of calling all these people at the rallies anti-vaxxers, see them for who they are. They're freedom fighters. And they're fighting for your rights that you've given away.
That was Graham Hood. Graham is with me today, and he is a former Qantas pilot for 32 years. Graham's video went around the world. Not only did it get 500,000 views on Rumble, where he originally uploaded it, but it went all around America, the UK, the world, and Australia, and touched the hearts and minds of many people, and was emblematic of exactly the kind of thing Australians are feeling right now. There's no doubt that in this country we're at a very important road and we're in a serious crisis. Graham, I wanted to firstly start off by welcoming you to the show and introducing you to everyone. Welcome.
Yeah, thanks so much, Joel. It's great to be here.
Graham, today we saw an earthquake in Victoria. We've seen a prime minister that's his leadership's basically been non-existent for the last 18 months. We have people that are incredibly desperate in this country to get out of their homes. Suicide, anxiety, and depression are skyrocketing in the nation. People are losing their jobs and they aren't able to feed their family. And to top things off, it seems as though the Prime Minister's outsourced the leadership role to the premiers, so we're the divided states of Australia. Now, putting the violent protesters aside, there are a lot of protesters that we've seen this last couple of years that have legitimate concerns. What is your message to the nation, to our leaders, and to anyone listening to this live right now?
Well, for a start, I want to condemn any violence to this whole process. You know, violence doesn't further anything. And violence has been used by mainstream media to distort the message. So when I say freedom fighters, I mean people who are prepared to stand up and be seen. And, you know, there's nothing like numbers. And when people voice their concerns by just turning up, that sends a powerful message. But what I want to say to the leaders is you need to stop criticising the protesters because they're there because of your leadership or lack of it. There has been abysmal leadership in our states and in our nation. Australia is no longer a federation from the way I see it. It is a land mass with 7 different countries in it. It's like a mini Europe, if you like. And that's just not on. When Australians cannot travel between borders, when Australians are living in fear of losing their jobs because they can't make a decision on a vaccine that hasn't been properly tested, when Australians are being bullied, when Australians are being turned away from places where they should be able to buy food, when Australians are feeling threatened, that's why they protest, and that's why they should. So my first question would be to the Prime Minister. Scott Morrison, where have you been? I mean, really, you say some stuff that's just completely outrageous. The thing that got me started with the rant that I did a couple of weeks ago was a press conference where Scott Morrison was asked by one of the journalists from the ABC what his position was on vaccines and vaccine mandates. And he just blithely leaned back with a big smile on his face and saying, we don't mandate vaccines in this country. We're a free country. We don't do those sorts of things. We expect our citizens to get the information to provide an informed consent. And it incensed me. It just made me completely angry. The reason Scott Morrison doesn't mandate vaccines at this moment is because he can't. The Constitution doesn't allow him. And as I said in the video, he's relying on the CEOs of the various organisations and government departments and whatever in this country to do the dirty work for him. So my question to Mr. Morrison, firstly, is this. Why should we have a government at all? Why don't we just turn Parliament House into a big Airbnb? And why don't we sack the lot of you? And why don't we vote for the boards and the CEOs of the corporations who are really running this country? That's the first question I'd want to ask you, Mr. Morrison. The second question is this. I'm not sure how many people are not vaccinated at the moment. I'm guessing it's probably around 50 to 60% that are double vaccinated, if that. If you get to a stage where you'll be happy to set people free again, and that point is 80 to 85% of people being vaccinated, the balance is between 2.5 million and possibly 5.5 million Australians. What are you going to do to them, Mr. Morrison? What are you going to do with them? Are you going to keep them under house arrest indefinitely? Are you going to put them in camps or compounds? Are you going to starve them into submission because they can't buy food? Are you going to beat them into submission because they can't pay their mortgages and they're out in the streets? So tell us what you're planning to do with the people who don't get vaccinated. And I want to say this to you, Mr. Morrison, and state premiers. I'm saying this now as a person who hasn't yet been vaccinated. But if and when I am, or if I was already, I would still make this protest. I would still stand for the people who have seen, as I've seen, this country go down the gurgler, everything our fathers fought for, everything that our far-off battlefields, the graves of soldiers from this country are in far-off battlefields. They died to protect us from the kind of draconian stuff you're bringing in. And so that my first question would be to Mr. Morrison, my second question actually, what are you going to do with us? And the state premiers, you are playing state of origin, and you're using the borders as goalposts, and you're using your citizens as the ball. And we're over it. We are absolutely over it. And this has all been driven by the media press conferences that you hold every day. It's just fear, fear, fear. Statistics that can't be trusted. And the reason they can't be trusted is your people have lost trust and faith. They've lost trust and faith in you. They've lost trust and faith in the bureaucracy that seems to be running what you're doing. And they've lost trust and faith in the mainstream media. And so here we find ourselves in this position where the spirit of this nation has absolutely been decimated. We have lost our national identity. We've lost our national identity for some time. You know, I'm sickened when I see our politicians pointing the finger at China and Burma at human rights abuses, when what's going on in this country just seems to be turned a blind eye to by them. I mean, come on. If we were to put leaky boats on the beaches at Manus Island or Nauru now and open the gates, most of the people in the detention centres would get on the boats and go back where they came from. Why would they want to be here? Why? So my message to the people of Australia is I have been really touched by the thousands and thousands of messages that I've received. I've been really touched by your experiences. I'd like to read one out shortly. And I've been really touched by the expression of a rekindling of the Australian spirit that you thought was lost. And so as I calm down from what I'm saying now, I want to say this very clearly. The Australian people have decided that they need some kind of a voice. At this present moment, there are two trenches, and in between the two trenches, there's no man's land. Now, we've got a noisy rabble in one trench throwing rocks at the noisy rabble on the... But there's the no man's land that I sit in is vastly populated. There are millions of Australians there, and they all want a voice. And it's very clear that they all want their nation back. They all want their spirit back. And that's what I feel dedicated to do from this point on. And I feel I'm going to be joined by quite a lot of Australians who are really thinking that enough's enough. I'm not letting you talk much, am I, Joel?
Right, yeah, I can listen to you all day. I've got to be honest, guys. I was chatting with Graham yesterday, I think it was, or the day before, and we were talking about this exact topic. And I could have talked all day with him. And I said, Graham, we're going to cut it short. We've been chatting for over an hour.
It was a good day.
I want to get to. Well, it was a really good chat, and I wanted to get it on camera because you're such a wealth of knowledge, Graham. When I started the show, I recognized I'm not the most knowledgeable person. I just happened to be the first one around, and so I wanted to give you the opportunity to voice your concerns about this. And one of those things is you started off your speech singing the Qantas ad from, I think, 2001. I still call Australia home. And more, I've been hearing people adopting that song and singing that song. And out of some sense of nostalgia, What can you tell me, Graham? What are the values in that song? What are the values that made Australia great that you really want to see come back?
Let me sing another little song for you, just a short one. We are one, and we are many, and from all the lands on earth we come. We share a dream and sing with one voice. I am, you are, we are Australian. Are we? Are we? We don't sing with one voice anymore. We don't speak with one voice. I don't think we do much at all with one voice anymore. We're not Australians, we're Queenslanders, we're New South Welshmans, we're West Australians, Tasmanians. We don't sing with one voice anymore. But the thing about the Still Call Australia Home ad, which was, I think, one of the most successful ads ever in the world when it came out, was it absolutely represented the spirit of Australia as it was represented in Qantas. Qantas is an amazing airline. It's 100 years old. It's the safest airline in the world. Nobody's ever died in a jet accident on Qantas. And that can't be said by most of the other airlines. And the reason that the spirit of Australia lives in Qantas is because of the 22,000 people that work there. And so my message is not to denigrate Qantas at all. When I got angry, my anger is at the system. And I've had a lot of people say they'll never fly Qantas because they feel that it's wrong after what I said. But you actually don't do me any favours if you don't fly Qantas, because a lot of people that are very dear to me work at Qantas, and they are the spirit of Australia. It's not the CEO or the board or anybody else. It's them. And to typify what that means, I want to go back. I did an interview yesterday, and I talked about a period of time after the Bali bombings. Not long after the Bali bombings, I had a flight to Bali and pulled up, and I went for a walk in the terminal, and I saw a lot of Aussies that were bandaged and scarred and burnt. And they came on board the aeroplane when we boarded, and they were really glad to get on. And I was watching them get on through the cockpit door. And when they were all seated, and the door was shut, and the aero bridge was moved back from the aircraft, we were still on the ground in Bali. And I just had to do it. I got up and I walked to the flight attendant station at the front of the aircraft and looked down the aisle at all these people. And I spoke into the PA system, and I said, "You guys look absolutely shattered, and you guys must be decimated by what you've been through. But I want to tell you, the door's closed, the aero bridge is gone. You're in Australia now. Welcome home. Welcome to Australia." And we hadn't even left Bali. And there were claps and there were tears. And that's what typifies to me what the spirit of Australia is about. And I'm really, really proud of my 32 years in command at Qantas, because every day going to work, it was like that. It meant something. Now, if it means something like that in Qantas, why can't we get it to mean something like that in Australia? My friends, we have lost it. We have, to be honest with you, I believe that I'm a devout follower of Jesus Christ, and my whole life's changed because of that. And I think we have taken Jesus and God out of our society, and what we're replacing it with isn't healthy. So we need to recapture that spirit.
Absolutely. Sorry, yeah. You sorry, listening to you sing that was the same thing that was sung on the steps on the steps of remembrance, and I I think when I was in year three, I was one of the few boys that was picked to join this boys' choir at the time, and we ended up singing that song with a lot of other schools in the Sydney Opera House. So yeah, it brings back memories, you know.
You're
And
touched, aren't you? Yeah. And you
yeah,
know,
yeah,
Joel, live in that moment for a minute, because what's making you feel emotional now is what we've got to recapture. We have to, mate. I'm puddled up too. We got to get our country back. My dad served for 5 years in the military in World War II. He fought the fascists and he fought the Japanese. And I took him to see Saving Private Ryan when the movie was in the cinemas, and most people will recall that. And when it was over, the cinema emptied, and there were 3 or 4 pockets of grey-haired old men surrounded by their children and grandchildren, and they were all hugging these men who were crying. And it was just me and my dad sitting up the back. And he just looked a bit dumbfounded, and I said, "Dad, was it really like that?" And he said, "Yeah, it was really, really like that." I said, why did you go there? What drove you? He said, "Oh, son, back in those days, red-blooded Aussie boys, they'd fight over 2 flies crawling up a wall. They just wanted to go and have a stoush." And he said, "I remember really clearly. I'd already started the enlistment process, and I took your mum when we were courting to the movies to see a Cary Grant film." And he said to me, he said, "You know what? I took her to see one of those girly movies because I thought I'd get a cuddle." Uh, how Australian is that? I mean, we've lost all that. Anyhow, he put his arm around her, and they were waiting for the movie to start, and the movie tone newsreels came on, and they looked and they saw footage taken in Berlin of German people, well educated, uh, you know, of a superior race, they thought, rounding up Jews in Berlin and beating the garbage out of them and spitting on them and breaking their shop windows and hurting them up, and little kids being trodden underfoot. And he looked at it and he said, "I got really angry." And he said, "They're not going to get away with that. No way in the world." And so he said, "We went over there with a bit of extra fervour because, son, the whole idea was we had to stop that, nip that in the bud where it was, because if we didn't, we'd end up like that in this country." Ring a bell? I'm telling you,
Yeah.
I'm into my history, and I've seen what happened in Berlin, and those people were well educated, but they were scared. They had a propaganda machine. Everybody in Berlin had a Nazi, a swastika on a radio that was given to them when the Nazis took over, and propaganda minister Goebbels used to tell them there'll be good news about the Reich every night, and you must listen to your radios. And so they had the same propaganda media that we've got at the moment, and they were conned, and they believed everything that they were told. And when the war was over and the concentration camps were liberated, the Allies took busloads of Germans through the camps to show them the rotting corpses of 6 million Jews. And they wept and they fell on the ground and they didn't believe it. They didn't believe it had happened. Now, about 80% of Germans went along with that. The other 20% were either shot or they went into exile, and they came back later on to try and rebuild it. They didn't like what was going on. But 80% of them fell for it, and the minority were persecuted. So when you consider what went on in Berlin with a bunch of well-educated people, I've got to tell you, Joel, we are this close in Australia to revisiting that horror. We are this close. And that's the reason I believe we denigrate the sacrifices of our soldiers. We pour their blood down the gutter when we allow the freedoms that they fought for to be so freely given up. And this has got nothing to do with vaccines or viruses. This is about our freedoms. And the greatest virus we're dealing with at the moment, Joel, is fear. And that fear is driven into us. We catch it through too much media, too much propaganda. The fear is put into us by newspaper headlines like "Be afraid" in big black letters. Be afraid. And we have these daily press conferences from politicians spruiking their stuff. And that fear, there's only one antidote for that. Oh, by the way, there's several variants to that virus. There's a suicide variant. That's massive. The suicide variant is killing more people than the COVID is. Now, fact checkers, don't worry about it. I'm making a generalised statement, but I tell you, I work in welfare with my wife Michelle, and we're in concert with a lot of other welfare groups that are helping people in recovery, and we know that we're getting the calls. We're talking to the people, and I've been talking to a lot of Qantas people who've been that depressed and distressed because they're really worried about the situation they're being forced into. And while I've got you Qantas people, I know there's a lot of you watching. You know what? There is a lot of you watching. And I want you to know there's a lot of you watching because you're not alone. And all the Virgin people and all the Jetstar people and all the Alliance people, the Rex people, you are not alone. There's a lot of you there, but you'll never be allowed to see them. but I'm telling you, there's a lot of them there, and they're organising. So you guys hang on. And to the police and soldiers and the firemen and the paramedics and the nurses and the doctors who've been in touch with me, you are not alone. You're not alone. I want to read something, Joel. Can I?
Please, absolutely.
Sorry, where's my glasses?
No,
Oh, it doesn't.
I'll give you a chance to find them.
There they are.
Yeah, guys. Oh, you found them, have you?
Yeah, I found them. Yeah, that's the
You
trouble with
got me
getting
off
old.
guard.
Yeah,
You
I
got me
got you
off
off
guard
guard.
there before. I didn't know you were going
Why?
to sing, and that's like a trigger for me. You really hit you really hit the mark on the spot.
You're a
Yeah.
big softy. You're a big softy, mate. Let me
I'm
tell you.
I'm not I'm actually not. Like you should have. Yeah, I'm actually today. So today's the it was today last year that my dad passed away. I kept it together just fine. My own father, but seeing what's happening to this country and hearing that nostalgic sort of song, it's sad. That's truly sad. And I think Jesus said, what did he say? He said, "Let the dead bury the dead." Like focus on what's in front of you, and in what's in front of me, and I'm sure you're being inundated too, is pain and suffering. And that's why I tell my followers, send your messages to Tanya Davies. And she didn't know what to do with it. She didn't know what to do with it. She's like, this is insane. And she's working really hard. But let's see what you've got that you're about to read out.
Okay, well, the video went viral, as you said, very, very quickly, and I've had messages from all over the world. Even today, we're getting messages. Uh, Germany is with you. Berlin is with you. America is with you. Da 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 da. I've got 5 interviews coming up in the next 2 days in countries around the world, and I'm going to be telling those countries around the world that Australia, uh, you need to keep your eyes on Australia, because what's going on in Australia is tragic, and and a lot of people say don't bad mouth Australia. I'm not bad mouthing Australians. I'm bad mouthing the systems that we're working under. I'm playing the ball, not the man. But I want to read you one message that brought me to tears, and I'll ask you all to reflect on what I'm about to read you and ask you a question at the end of it. I am a medical specialist in Australia. I am not anti-vax. My evaluation of the medical evidence regarding COVID-19 and the medical ethics of forced vaccination without informed consent means I bring the medical profession into disrepute, causing reputational damage to the profession and loss of trust for the community. They were in inverted commas. That's from a letter that he must have received from APRA, this specialist. This means I cannot work as, one, I cannot enter a workplace without being vaccinated. Two, I no longer can be registered as a medical practitioner nor specialist, as I am unable to comply with the code of conduct I am obliged to endorse in order to be registered. Further, medical indemnity insurance cannot cover me to work, as I am at too great a risk of being sued for infecting someone with COVID if I work unvaccinated against current medical norms and guidelines. I am closing down my medical practice through constructive dismissal. In other words, he's sacking his staff. I adhere to the highest medical ethics, the Hippocratic Oath, first do no harm, informed consent. There is no place for me in medicine in Australia. No place for me in medicine in Australia. There is no one to replace me either. I'm going to stay out of the trees, as you so eloquently put it. I'm indebted to you for the companionship that I now feel following your video. Wish me luck. I wish you peace, transcendence, and please cling to the rock. Remember, he looks after the sparrows. Hold firm. Love will bring healing. I commend you for your courage. Please say a prayer that my patients will be okay. I feel searing pain having to walk away. Hopefully I'll be back. Now, my question to everybody who's watching this, and sadly the people who need to hear this question will be watching My Kitchen Stinks or something like that, Big Brother or The Block. My question to you is this. What would you say to that doctor? What would you say to him? I put this question to a friend of mine who is not very happy with me at the moment. I've got a few friends holding me at arm's length. They're very dear friends. And I said to him, have a look at this. And I sent it to him. I took a photo of it and I sent it to him. And I said, what would you say to that doctor? He said, I don't know. He may not be a very good doctor anyway. Well, I'd love to see you say that to him, because I think that's an absolute disgrace. And the other thing I think is that if someone with that kind of training, a specialist, has done his research and looked into everything and he's not convinced, then how can I give an informed consent to a mandatory vaccine? Because this is what's going on. In the state of Queensland at the moment, I'm told that any doctor who speaks against the government narrative on vaccines can be jailed for 6 months. Any doctor who prescribes one of the recognised treatments that are being used around the world to heal people, including India, can be in very serious trouble. As we've seen in that letter, anybody who speaks against the narrative in the medical profession can be deregistered, delisted. So if all I'm going to hear is the same government rhetoric from doctors who are too afraid to say what they're really thinking, how can I trust what I'm being given? Mr. Morrison, how can I trust the information? How can I give informed consent when I can't find out whether in 3 years' time I'm going to have some kind of disorder or malfunction in my body because I've taken this? Is it reasonable to do that? It's like buying a block of land on the beach and building $1 million mansion on it, not knowing what will happen in 5 years' time when we get a super tide. I mean, can't I have the time to wait for that research to be done so I can give informed consent? How can I trust doctors who are too scared to be deregistered if they go against the government narrative? And the other thing that really bugs me, a friend of mine who's not very happy with my stand either. He's not happy because 3 of his relatives in Sydney are very ill with COVID. That's what they've been told. They're sick at home. They've been that way for 2 weeks. And I said to him, how are they? And he said, they're very, very sick, and they're sick because they left it too late to be vaccinated. And today I asked him, having been home very ill with COVID, the 3 of them for 2 weeks, what treatments were they given by New South Wales Health? New South Wales Health turned up on the first day and did a PCR test on one of them and said they've got COVID. Now, please tell me, what treatment have they been on? And his reply was, well, none. I've been getting some vitamins together to post down to them because they've been given no treatment at home. They're stuck at home. They were told to go to the hospital. Some people, I don't know about these 3, but some people have been told, from what nurses are telling me, go to the hospital when your lips turn blue. Now, if you listen to people like Dr. Peter McCullough, they'll tell you, no, you've got to get it in the first 3 days with the standard little routine of vitamins and those drugs that we're not allowed to talk about in case we go to jail. Now, those beautiful people are stuck at home with no treatment and they're very sick. Now, the truth is, if they've been given a standard little box like a McDonald's Happy Meal with a few vitamins and some drugs in them and some antibiotics, they may well have been treating it and been in a situation now where they felt like they were just getting over a big flu, because that seems to be the experience. In El Salvador at the moment, if you are coming down with symptoms, you contact the local health officials and they send around a little blue gift bag with the coat of arms of the Salvadorian government on it from the health department. And inside it, there is aspirin, vitamin C, vitamin D, antibiotics, and the other drugs we're not allowed to talk about, and a set of instructions telling them how to use them. And it costs less than $7, I'm told, for what they get. But in Australia, no, wait till your lips turn blue, and if you die, we'll add you to the list.
Yeah. It's like, what's the treatment? What's the treatment? Wait until you get in the hospital, and then maybe we'll put you on a ventilator. It's like, that's not a treatment. That's like surrendering to the virus.
Yeah. So, and my heart breaks because I know these 3 people and I care about them, and they're being left there. And where are the health officials? It's not the health official, the people on the front line. It's not their fault, for goodness sake. Those guys are doing everything they're being told to do. But if there's 1,000 health officials sticking sticks up people's noses, and then there's not enough to go around to the houses to make sure these people are being treated before they go to hospital, then shouldn't that be looked at? Shouldn't that be rearranged? But Australia is one country that says, no, we just seem to be focusing mainly on the vaccine, and we're not focusing on the treatment. So most people around the world now are turning into their own pharmacists and their own doctor, and they're going online and they're getting what information they can through what might be even spurious sources. We shouldn't have to do that. This is what the health department's for. We don't have a health system. We have a disease management system. If we had a health system, we'd be making sure that people didn't eat fast food. We'd be shutting down the fast food outlets. We'd be taking out sugary drinks. We'd ban tobacco and alcohol. We'd be doing all that sort of stuff if we're really concerned about people's health. But we just manage disease in our health systems. And the staff that do it, incredible people. And now we've got politicians saying if you get sick and you come to hospital and you haven't got a vaccine passport with a green tick on it, you won't get treated. Now, I've got to tell you that my wife's a very experienced ex-registered nurse. There's no way she would not treat somebody, no matter what their situation. Would you turn away a drug addict who's there every week after an overdose because he keeps doing the wrong thing? I've paid about $7 million in tax in this country in my working life, about $7 million. Am I entitled to a bed somewhere if I haven't been vaccinated? But don't worry, I've got a wife who's a nurse, and we've got some treatments, and we'll look after ourselves. Don't worry, I won't use any of your beds, Daniel Andrews. You can have them.
There's actually no, it's all right. It's really crazy. There's $2 billion that was recently paid for some more Pfizer jabs, and a lot of people don't realize this. $2 billion, the amount of ivermectin that could buy is enough doses for every single man, woman, and child in this country. I think it's above 25 million doses, and it's like, hang on, why aren't we getting those courses of Ivy? Why aren't we getting it? And that is the question that the government, yeah.
Have you got an answer to that?
I honestly,
No,
not a clue. I genuinely have no clue. And
Let me tell you one
the
thing.
thing. I put it, yeah.
Ivy, let's call it Ivy, 2 years ago,
Sure.
you could buy it for about 4 cents a tablet. Now, if you're able to get any in Australia now, it's $11 a tablet.
That's
What does that tell you? Anyway,
the demand.
look. I'm not a doctor, Joel, and I'm not here to give medical advice. I'm not qualified to do that. I wouldn't expect a doctor to be able to fly a Boeing 737. But all I know is that I'm doing the research I'm doing. I just need the research to be fully and properly completed, and the vaccines to be properly tested. And they're talking about in a year there may be other vaccines, or at the end of the year, that are coming that may not be anywhere near as risky as the ones that we're worried about at the moment. But no, we're being forced into being vaccinated yesterday. Qantas is saying if you're not vaccinated by the 15th of November, fully vaccinated, your staff who haven't been vaccinated, you don't have a job anymore. Now, that's going to be really interesting. Why does it have to be the 15th of November? Can't we just be happy that people are getting vaccinated, those who are choosing to get that done are getting vaccinated with freedom of choice? Anyway, so yeah, we've got to put that aside and get back to the real issue for me is not viruses and vaccines, it's freedom, and our rights as citizens of this once great country are being destroyed. I mean, I can now in many states decide when I want to die if I'm ill. I can even decide what gender I want to be, Joel. But I can't say no to a vaccine. Give me a break.
I don't get it. It's like what if I want to get it? What if I want to actually, you know what? I'm not even kidding. I want to have a bout with this thing. I really do. And I want to smash it with some Ivy so that we can put this thing to bed. I really do. Because I've got no underlying conditions. I want to smash this thing. I want to get natural immunity, because natural immunity, as Dr. Fauci admitted, is 27 times more effective at preventing you from getting the virus. Actually, let me rephrase that. If you get a person that's jabbed and a person that gets natural immunity from getting the virus, the person that's jabbed is 27 times more likely to be reinfected than the person that wasn't jabbed. So that means that natural immunity is superior. I want that superiority, but they won't give it to me. But I can kill myself. I can kill myself, apparently.
Yeah, that's right. You can do that. You can suffer from depression if you've got an addiction. I I'll tell you, I've been working for 15 years with people with addictions, and my wife have too. We've got a program called Recovery Road, and we run Christ at a 12-step ministry, and we've seen dramatic changes in people's lives. I've seen men and women walk away from antidepressive drugs. Guys give up their porn addictions. It's just been absolutely incredible. People turn their lives around. But the one thing is certain about addictions: the greatest driver of addiction is pain, and the pain is always of being rejected and not being loved. So if the pain, the driving force of addiction, is a feeling of rejection and not being loved, imagine what in this day and age when you're not even allowed to talk to your neighbour in the supermarket. What does it mean to people in nursing homes who are fretting for their family members who can't visit them? What does it mean for the average person living at home who can't even see their children? I've got children and grandchildren that live almost within sight across the border between New South Wales and Queensland, and it's almost impossible to see them. We've got 6 kids and 21 grandkids between us, Michelle and I, and the majority of our families are over in WA. I had knee surgery back in 2019, which meant I couldn't travel much. I had 2 knees replaced. And then COVID came, and it's been 3 years since I've been able to hold my grandkids in WA. I did have a double Perth overnight once, and I thought, great, I'll catch up with them. And by the time we got there, McGowan shut the border again, and I was confined to a hotel room for 36 hours. My daughter said, I'll come and wave at you, Dad, with the kids through the window down on the street. And I said, don't do that, it'll bring me undone. I mean,
Yeah.
we are seeing in our ministry a rapid rise in the number of people who are being addicted. Their addictions are coming back. People have said to me, you talked in your video about your porn addiction and stuff like that. I mentioned aspects of my life that I haven't been proud of, for the simple reason that I'm human, and if other people see that I can admit to my failings and my character defects, then what's the use of you hiding yours? I mean, the only time we should look down on each other is when we're helping each other up. So I say that because that's who I am. That's part of my story. And if I'm going to take any kind of leadership role from here on in with what's happening, then I want people to know who they're following. I'm no great shakes at anything. I've made a million mistakes in my life, and anything that I am today is because of Jesus Christ. Because on the 18th of August 2006, I'd set a date to kill myself. That's how wretched my life was. I'm not some brilliant human being, and I cry a lot. I feel sad for people. I hate bullying. I was bullied a lot at school, not because I looked different, because I hung around with the kids who did. I hung around with kids who had their legs in irons from polio disease and poliomyelitis, and I thank God for the polio vaccine because I didn't get that. But then in that group also was little Andre, one of my mates, and he had a little chicken wing arm sticking out of his shoulder. He'd suffered from birth defects because his mum took a drug called thalidomide, and that drug was seen later on to be falsely represented in the research, and the Dr. McBride was disgraced. But it was seen as a medical miracle back then. And so I used to hang around with those kids, and I got bullied for being with them because I hated seeing the way they were treated. And that's been me all my life. And that's why I'm so passionate about what I'm saying here tonight, because I'm seeing that on a grander scale in Australia. I don't like people who have not been vaccinated calling people who have been vaccinated sheeple, or the other way around, because we talked about this yesterday, Joel. We're all sheep. We're all sheep. The difference between one flock and another is who you follow. Who the shepherd is. That's the difference. And so we've got to stop doing this to each other. We've got to stop judging and condemning each other.
Absolutely. And I mean, isn't that the aspect that that's the biggest tragedy here? We elect parliamentarians to be the thought leaders, to be the one that's leading policy and bringing the nation together. Scott Morrison can bring the heads of the premiers in if he chooses to, if he has the guts to. He could withhold funding. He could, he's got the federal police at his hands and the military. And his one job of government is to protect the liberties and the freedoms of people, because we're meant to have freedom of choice. We're meant to have the freedom to choose exactly what to do things, and that personal responsibility, that old thing. it's funny because they're happy to tout personal responsibility when it comes to euthanasia and personal choice on abortion. But when it comes to this, it's like, oh, no, no, you can't have personal choice. You can't go outside. It's too dangerous. You might die. And it's all
Yeah.
chasing up. And they say, if we were to steel man their argument, they then say, oh, it's because we need to achieve herd immunity. And it's like, hang on, that's a debunked narrative. We're not going to achieve herd immunity because, as it turns out, in Israel, with over 65, 70% vaccination, they are going into lockdown again. They need booster shots because it turns out the vaccinated people are either the same or more infectious than others. And you guys can check out the studies on that. And that's really scary because it means that we've been made empty promises for over a year, and they're selling. It just feels like no one trusts anyone now. So they've squandered any trust that they had, and on top of that, they broke
Yeah.
down the trust that we have with the police. And so here we are.
Oh, look, I've had look. I had a call from a police officer in a state. I won't mention the state, who said that he watched my rant, and they were all talking about it at work. And within a few days, 130 of them had signed a letter, um, condemning the way they're being used in their forces, and condemning the fact that they're being forced to be vaccinated when they feel that they can't yet. There are police everywhere. There's that great young guy, Alex, Constable Alex Coombs, I think his name. I'm
Cooney.
sorry, Alex
Yeah, yeah.
Cooney.
That's
Sorry,
right.
Alex.
Cooney, yeah,
Um,
he's a legend.
yeah, and we've also got Johnny Larrett, who is we're becoming pretty close friends. In fact, Alex and John and I are really working hard to join forces and try and form some kind of leadership.
Yeah.
We've got to talk to Alex about that. But there are a lot of people that really got behind Alex in the police forces. Um, what we're seeing with our police, we're seeing guys under pressure, under stress. A lot of them are, they're really good people. There's good and bad in everybody, but there are a few thugs in there, and it really
Mm.
breaks my heart to see 12 or 13 cops gang up on a 12-year-old girl who's not wearing a mask and pepper spray her and put her in a paddy wagon while they leave her sister in the shopping centre, a 10-year-old sister. When we saw the images of that 70-year-old woman being pushed down and two policemen who had masks under their chin spraying her with pepper spray, I've asked a couple of senior coppers who are mates of mine what they thought of that, and the response was the same. Those guys are thugs and they should be charged. Um, but everybody's reacting out of fear, and everybody's reacting out of the pain of the circumstance, even the police. And I think a lot of police are really fed up with this, and we see pockets of interaction between police and protesters that give me heart. Guys who are empathising with each other. Like there was one yesterday, and one of the riot squad
Mm.
guys was saying, "I hate this as much as you do. I'm just doing my job. I don't know how to do anything else. This is all I'm trained to do. My wife's lost her job. What am I meant to do? I hate this as much
Mm.
as you do." And he was trying to be lenient. He's not
Mm.
alone, because what I'm hearing, those guys aren't alone. And I still respect our police force. I really do. And this situation is bringing out the best in some and the worst in others, and we've got to accept that for what it is. We've lost the circle of love and trust. Our whole society was geared up to be loving and trusting, and when that circle is broken, it takes a lot of energy to get it back, and that's really sad.
Mm. There's a great segment when Jordan Peterson was in Sydney. It's his conversation with former Deputy Prime Minister John Anderson and Dave Rubin. They were here in early 2019, and he was talking about that. When you have the breakdown in trust, then you need laws to regulate everything. And he was making reference to the Banking Royal Commission, which came out with over 90, I think it was 98 recommendations. If you're not following the rules that you're meant to be following because of the morals that are put into you, whether that's from religion or whatever, then you're going to go and do your own thing. And the government is going to have no choice but to regulate that. And so all of a sudden, you get a situation where the government is looking into your matters, looking into you. And guys, listen, I don't know if you can go and find it, guys, but it's the start of his conversation with John Anderson. It's brilliant. It's absolutely brilliant. And that's the concern. I've often talked with a lot of cops who have reached out to me on Signal recently, and I've often warned some of them about the danger after this pandemic, because believe it or not, we are going to get out of this at some point.
Yeah, we
And
will.
Black Lives Matter are going to come right after the cops, except this time they won't have the people to stand with them like I was at the Captain Cook statue in Sydney to defend it. It's going to be them on their
Yeah,
own. I remember talking to these very horsemen, that was actually horsewomen, that were there, police officers that were there, and
yeah,
talking with them about, how it's important to defend the statues and all that. But
yeah.
it's funny because they're by their own choice, by standing with the government on this and not taking the bold steps that Alex Cooney has. Now we're in a situation where you've Nigelized any trust that you've built. And if you think that this is a one-off and it's going to fluctuate and you'll get the trust back, I'm sorry, guys, you got a lot of work to do. You got a lot of outreach.
They really do. And one guy was talking to me about the brand, the police brand. It's been, in some cases, they're saying irreparably damaged. It's a sad state of affairs. But the talk about losing trust, like I've had a lot of people who've been a bit mad at me say, why don't you trust the science? And my reply to them is, ask the people of Hiroshima and Nagasaki what they think about science, the survivors of the nuclear blast. Ask the kids who suffered horrendous birth defects from thalidomide what they think of the science. Ask the people who died from poisoning from Teflon because Monsanto didn't care about people's safety just to get a product on the market. Ask them about the science. Now, the other thing about the science is Dr. Anthony Fauci, you mentioned him. If he was the only GP within 200 miles of me, I would not go and see him. I mean, why would you? He keeps changing his mind all the time. Now, it is coming out in stream media in the States and everywhere else in the world that with the emails that have been leaked from Fauci to Wuhan in China, that this virus may well be man-made because they're talking about gain of function and all that. And it's pretty clear that it was probably made in Fort Detrick in the US or somewhere in a lab in the US, and it was going to gain of function processing or whatever they do in China. Now, if that's true, and that was either deliberately released or it was released accidentally, it was science that made that. So this virus may, if it is man-made, and even Dr. Norman Swan, who's the physician and journalist with the ABC, I listen to a podcast he does regularly. Quite like the guy, but he was saying that he was asked a question about it being man-made or natural, and his obvious response was, well, I'm leaning towards it being man-made, but we've got to deal with it anyway, so let's deal with it. And that's a fair response. But if it was man-made, it was the science that made it. So I don't believe in I need to follow the science or a science. I need to follow the real science. And the only way I can understand a science that I might be able to trust is if it comes from independent, unbiased scientists and researchers who aren't tied to government grants and big pharmaceutical funding deals and who aren't under government pressure to come up with the answers that we need to make an informed consent. I trust science. For goodness sake, I used to fly jet aeroplanes for a living. Used to. I resigned. But
That's right.
at the end of the day, we do. Science is a good thing, but it can also be used for bad things as well.
Absolutely, and it's not a
Jammal.
democracy as well. I think it was Albert Einstein who said, yeah, I think there were over 200 scientists that was trying to disprove one of his theories that ended up being true. And he said, why did you have to get all this, these scientists to petition me? It just took one of them to prove I'm wrong. I mean, science is not a democracy. It's meant to be, if you've got the best ideas, if you've got an accurate hypothesis and you test it, and then someone else can replicate it, maybe using different methods and a different
Yeah.
experiment, that's science. And then you get multiple people to proofread it and run the experiment again. That's science. It's not like this thing called science where it's like a monolith and there's one world view of it. That's not how science works. But yeah, it's been an absolute disaster. And I think that the crisis we're in right now, it's going to go down in the 21st century as the biggest health management crises in history. Because of how much knowledge and technology we have, we still found some way to F it up. It's amazing and astonishing.
Well, in actual fact, I think it might be a blessing that the vaccine rollout has been screwed up so badly by mismanagement in this country, because at least it's the time it's taking to get it out there is actually allowing time for whatever the real science is to emerge in an environment where it can be looked at without being shoved down a rabbit hole as a conspiracy theory. And it's so sad to see a lot of this research being done, not even being aired. I've been approached by research scientists, Dr. Richard, I'll call him. His company have been working tirelessly for 18 months to develop a prophylactic treatment for COVID and a possible cure. And it's in the form of a pump that you actually apply whatever the medication is straight onto the lungs, like a Ventolin pump. And they can't get a hearing anywhere. They can't get anyone in the health department or in government to listen to them. And so they've approached the Indian and Nepalese governments, and they're going over there to try this out on real people who are really infected with COVID over there. That there are a lot of people there, and they're hoping to get the trials done very quickly. Now, he said to me, if this works the way we expect it to, anyone boarding an aeroplane will be able to take 2 puffs of this and get on the aeroplane and go flying without being at risk of COVID or transmitting it. There are people working on really good cures, but we're spending, how many billions, or are we up to $500 billion or something yet? If we'd spent a fraction of that money building more hospitals, training more nurses, paying them better, encouraging more doctors to do the training, building a proper health system, a health management system, rather than a disease management system, a lot of these things that we're dealing with and we're troubled about, with health systems breaking down and falling apart, that wouldn't happen. But no, every time we talk about increasing funding for hospitals, oh no, we've got a budget deficit, we can't do that. I've got friends who've waited for years to get a hip replacement. They can't get into a hospital even without a virus, without a pandemic. They can't get basic treatment. The only reason I got my knees replaced is because I spend $600 a month on medical insurance, which I can no longer afford to pay. So I mean, we've really got to get the horse back in front of the cart in Australia, and we really, really have to get our spirit back. This country is going to be in desperate need of repair. We have to start loving one another, find ways to start trusting one another again. You know what? I used to fly over suburbs going into Melbourne and Sydney and see all these big houses, 820-metre houses on 830-metre blocks of land. And there they are, all crammed up against one another. And about 10 or 20% of that building is a media room. So my advice to anybody in that situation is, first of all, get rid of the toxic dump in your home, the media room, because it's just killing you. Destroy it, tear the roof down over it, dig up the concrete under it, and plant a veggie garden and start growing your own veggies where the media room used to be. Because the lifestyle you're living is not going to help you when the fat hits the fan. And I'm telling you, we're not far from that. The fat's going to hit the fan, and we need to start thinking differently. We need to get out in the fresh air, and we need to eat plant-based diet, and we need to drink lots of water and get lots of exercise, stuff that I'm starting to do now. Because it's not the viruses that are getting stronger, it's our immune systems that are getting weaker because of fast food, because of stress, because of alcohol consumption. All those things are destroying. We're addicted to convenience in the world now. We're addicted to convenience in this country. They didn't, in many ways, they didn't have it this tough back in the 40s and 50s, and because, we didn't have a life of convenience then. You actually had to walk to a telephone box a mile away to make a phone call. You had to post a letter. I long for those days, we've lost it all. And we're too busy taking selfies. We're too self-interested. If every man on the planet looked after the guy sitting next to him on his right, we wouldn't be having this conversation, Joel. Do you know that? If everybody started trusting and loving and looking after the guy on his right, it would go around the world in a big circle and we'd be fine.
Yeah.
But that's
Ronald
utopia,
Reagan,
not
right?
dystopia. Ronald
Exactly.
Reagan,
I
did he
think it
say
was
that?
Ronald. He said something along the lines of, look, you can't help everyone, but everyone can help someone. And I was like, okay, that's
Yeah,
true. If everyone just helped one person,
yeah,
we'd get
yeah,
somewhere,
yeah,
we really would, and the utopia is a myth. It really is. But you're
yeah.
absolutely right about the health stuff. When have you ever heard Dr. Chant or even Greg Hunt, the health minister, federal health minister, come out and say, all right, I need you guys to go out, get plenty of fresh air, because that's where the virus doesn't exist, according to Brad Hazard, the health hazard in New South Wales. Also, make sure you go out and do plenty of exercise, eat better. Don't try and reduce your smoking if you can, but I understand that's a personal choice. Definitely don't vape, and don't do anything like increase your vitamin D supply, whether that's from the sun or whether that's from taking eating the little gummies. Have some vitamin C, and maybe we can start talking about some of the other prophylaxes. But there's 7 things there which are uncontroversial, but apparently it's not okay to fat shame people, and we're beyond that right now. It's like these are very simple things that everyone could do, and I am
Yeah.
yeah yeah.
I was really pleased. I heard this that I think Premier of New South Wales was on a radio interview with a couple of I think it was Jackie O and Kyle, and
Oh yeah.
I heard that she actually admitted. I haven't heard it myself, but I think it's out there. I heard that she admitted that most of the people who actually die with COVID die with it, but not of it. That the underlying cause of death isn't COVID, and and I thought, well, maybe they're starting to realise, because if every day when they had their press conference, they said we're very, very sad to announce the death of 300 people in the last 24 hours in New South Wales. Of that 300, 70 of them died from cancer. 48 had heart attacks and died, so on and so on. And at the very end, and sadly, 3 people died of or with COVID. Now, if we saw all of that laid out, like we have, I think we have 70,000 deaths a year in Australia. In the last 18 months, we've had 1,000 or just over of people who've died with COVID and some of COVID by their own admission. Then when we see it in perspective, we have to wonder what on earth we're doing. And I said in an interview yesterday that I read in a study that it was if the world reduced the speed limit to 50 kilometres an hour across the entire planet, the road toll around the world would be reduced by 1 million people. So I got a great idea. Let's get the governments together. Let's save 1 million people and set a 50 kilometre an hour speed limit around Australia. Everybody happy with that? We're going to do that? Hello? Are we, you don't want to do that. You don't want a 50. Why? Because it'd be too inconvenient for you. Oh, okay. So, mate, I tell you,
It's about trade-offs.
trade-offs. Yeah, yeah, it
Yeah,
is about trade-offs. But we
yeah,
are living in a sad situation. People are dying, and there have been pandemics throughout history, and they tend to last a year or two, and then they fade out, and then another one comes along. And the things that are concerning me are that there are precedents being set now that and mechanisms set in place that are going to pale into insignificance when the next big crisis comes along, which I believe will be climate change. That'll be the next big thing that we're all asked to make enormous sacrifices for. There are already people high up in society who are saying that there's probably 5 billion too many people on the planet. So there's going to be a lot of draconian stuff brought in about that, and we haven't seen anything yet, folks. I believe it. I do have to admit one thing too, Joel. Qantas has a very good policy. It's called non-punitive safety culture. And what that means is that if I do a heavy landing or make a mistake in flight, and I write a report, dob myself in, they always treat us very well. They say, good on you, because we want to learn from our mistakes. So I made a mistake in that first video. I referred to the Marburg virus, and just before I pressed the record button, somebody sent me a video through of Tedros in a news conference, but the news conference was an old one, and sadly I got fact checked into oblivion on Facebook, and I deserve to be, because like in the stress of everyday life that we're living in now, we can all get led down little rabbit holes, and we're all guilty of that on either side of the proverbial wall that we sit on. But at the end of the day, we've got to admit our mistakes, and we've got to learn from them, and we've got to get back to the core message. All right, I made a mistake there, but I tell you what, my core message is we have to stick together. We have to start loving each other. We have to start caring about the guy next to us, regardless of his decisions, and we have to stop putting each other down. And unless we do that, the spirit of Australia will die, and when you lose your spirit, the body dies.
that's right.
So we have to get back to that real quick, and we should be totally dedicated to this purpose. We haven't had a statesman in this country for I don't know how long. We desperately need a statesman. We need a leader that will take us into a recovery phase that's real and lasting, where we can get back to our national identity again. You know, we've blown it. We can't point our finger at other countries anymore and say that we're better than they are when it comes to human rights and civil rights. We can't. We occupied this country a couple of 100 years ago, and the First Nations people had it running pretty well. And I fell for the old narrative back when I was a kid. I mean, there was a White Australia policy when I was going to primary school, and I fell for that narrative. But now I look at it and I think how we've screwed this joint up, and I think about how we're looking now to the First Nations people to show us how to manage our forests and manage our land so that we don't get these devastating bushfires. And I think about the do-gooders who came in with all the best intentions and stole the children from their families. It makes me cry. It really does. I've changed my mind about a lot of things as I've grown older because I'm trying to educate myself, and I'm trying to really see that human life is a very special thing. And I know some people will say, well, get vaccinated so you don't kill others. But it encompasses our rights, our spirit, and who we are as a people. It's not just specifically about our health. So, where we go from here, I don't know. I want to participate in it, and if for however long this takes, I can be a rallying point for some people, then I'm happy to do that, but not to elevate myself because there's nothing to elevate. I've been down that track in my life where ego is important to me, and believe me that I've recognised the destructive power of an ego, and I'm not about that at all. My strength lies in my vulnerability. The more people know about me as a person, and the more I can be real about myself, nobody can harm me. I had a guy on Facebook come out the other day, and he said that I'd blown 30 years of good Qantas salary on pornography. And he named a porn site that I'd never heard of, which means he must know it, but I didn't. And what I noticed was, my daughter was really worried. She said, this is going to really hurt you. And I looked at the post and I laughed. And she said, what are you laughing about? I said, everyone knows I was a porn addict. Like, who cares? Who cares? I didn't blow 30 years of my salary on pornography. No, but, it took me down into a very dark place, like it does for, so many people in this country who are addicted to it. People are watching this and know what I mean. So my strength lies in my vulnerability. So if anyone wants to attack me, they can. But underneath every bad behaviour, there's a pain that drives it. Joel, you know this work you're doing. There's a pain underneath every bad behaviour, and it's easier to love somebody often than it is to like them. So when I think that a guy whose behaviour is offensive and bad is coming out of a pain from his past that's really doing him in, then it's my job to love him because that guy needs love, and love will turn it around. And I said to you yesterday when my wife forgave the man who molested her as a child for 6 years in 2007, she proved to me that grace and evil can't live in the same room, and evil's always the first to leave. So from my perspective, grace always wins. And for me, grace comes from Jesus because he demonstrated it when he died on the cross for me. 2,000 years ago, someone I never met died so a filthy porn addict like me could have a second chance. So I'm there. If anything I go through at the moment, which is a bit stressful at times, is a tenth or 100th of what he went through, then who am I to complain?
Absolutely, and that's something that, yeah, I totally understand when it comes to, it's wreaking havoc in our country. The porn stuff. When I was a lot younger, I actually had a problem with it too, and I have no problem chatting about it because I used to be in pastoral care as well, and I helped a lot of young men get over it as well. I sort of told them how to do that, and partly what you said was very helpful. You might find this interesting. I was listening to a woman called Dr. Deborah So. She's been very outspoken against some of the gender debates and sex debates where the radical left try to introduce all of these, moon gender and all this crazy stuff into critical race theory, all of that into the schools. And so she was talking about the actual porn addiction with Joe Rogan, and she was saying she doesn't actually believe in the addiction. She believes that it's actually some people's way of procrastinating and putting things off. And that made total sense because when I was thinking back to the times when I used to struggle with it back, I think it was a little bit after high school. I was thinking about it. I was like, crap, that's so true. Because like when you're busy and you're in the zone and you're thinking about exam period, for example, it's like I can't think longer than an hour. I have no time. I'm just in the zone. But it also it helps a lot when you know that there's someone that loves you, of course. And I mean, I think that's where the true wisdom is in the
Yeah,
Bible, where it says, you know, have that
yeah.
have that partner, have that partner there with you, because then you'll save yourself for them. But look, that's actually these are the sorts of topics that you cover on your show, Graham, and I reckon it's going to be really awesome to keep up to track with what you're doing on there. And guys, just to let you know, so I was chatting with Graham yesterday, and I really wanted to help the guy. I really wanted to help him. You know, the social media can be a fickle place between censorship, between the bots, between the spam, between everything. And I just felt that, you know, we're in a situation right now where it's such a crazy place, and I wanted to give Graham a big help. So I ended up setting him up a Facebook account. It's totally his. He's going to be posting on it and smashing it out. So I've included that in the description. So after this, give it a follow. Get him up there. It's brand new today. It's not sus. I know you might be like, oh, there's only 100 followers. No, no, we're building it up. We're gonna make sure as many people that need help can get there, because God knows Lifeline needs a lot of help, and Graham's got a lot of help to give.
Well, I really appreciate, meeting you yesterday was a breath of fresh air, Joel. We've got so much in common, and you're a truth seeker, and so am I, and I like to think we all are. And are we about to draw this to a close?
Yeah, I think we are. Yeah.
All right. Well, will you trust me and give me 60 seconds to bring it to a close?
I'll give you 120 seconds if you need.
All right. Okay. Now, there's a lot of people been making comments and that have really been heartwarming. Now, as I've said, I've been in recovery all my life, and there's a prayer that I've said in recovery. It's called the Serenity Prayer, and I ask anybody now who's feeling really down, who's feeling like they're at a loose end. There's a lot of people out there who think I can't take this anymore. There's a lot of people out there who are hurting at probably losing the career of their childhood dreams because they're being forced to do it. And not only talking about pilots, I'm talking about every walk of life. There's people who are really scared about losing their houses and losing their loved ones. And I really ask all of you who are watching this, I don't know how many are out there, but just bear with me a minute. I ask you to bow your heads as I pray. Dear Lord, Father in heaven, please grant us the serenity to accept the things we cannot change. Grant us the courage to change the things that we can, and the wisdom to know the difference, living one day at a time, enjoying one precious moment at a time, accepting hardship as a pathway to peace, taking as Jesus did this sinful world as it is, not as I would have it, trusting that you will make all things right if I surrender to your will, so that I may be reasonably happy in this life and supremely happy with you forever in the next. In Jesus' name I pray. Amen.
Amen. Absolutely.
Um,
Thank you so much for that.
so that I've seen atheists pray that prayer to tears, and I've seen their lives change. And it's powerful. It's worked for me. And there are a lot of people out there now who just need a little bit of hope. You're not in this alone, regardless of which side, which trench you're in. You're not in this alone. And Australia is a beautiful country, and we've been doubly blessed in this country of ours. And we've got to get back to the old fashioned things that bring us back into the middle, and we've got to stop the pendulum from swinging so quickly and so far from one side to the other. There's too much change too quickly. Once upon a time, I'd be charged with drink driving if I'd had a few beers. Now, if I hold this while I'm driving and have a swig, I can be fined $380 or something. Like, we've got to take risks in life, people, and we've got to accept the risks, and we've got to be immune to the risks. To build up our immune system. But anyway,
Absolutely.
um,
Graham, you've been an absolute treat tonight, and you're the first one to actually get me to tear up on camera, so that's great. Um,
you ripper.
I, yeah, I know, and I haven't. It's not like I'm a rookie. I've done over 100 interviews by this point, So, no, look, thank you so much. Today's been a wild day, and I'm wishing everyone safety tomorrow because I suspect it's going to be the biggest of protests in Victoria. Because tomorrow's the deadline when basically the mandates come in for construction. But look, everyone, just keep it peaceful, and be just get your word out that way. And I know you guys are gonna probably protest every day. Just be peaceful, and once you've had your say, go home.
You know,
No, look,
I would love to see the police and the protesters just calmly come together, just to take a breath together. You know, the coppers are doing what they're paid to do, and a lot of them don't like it. And you know, the protesters, you still have a right to protest, but for goodness sake, do it with peace and do it with compassion. Don't get angry. Don't get angry.
absolutely. And the world is watching. They are seeing these scenes of the police and how they're treating them. But
Yeah.
they'll be a lot less sympathetic, especially if you're violent. So it doesn't actually work. All right, guys. Thank you so much, Graham. It's been legendary. And you know what? Thanks to Graham, I'm actually also going to be talking with John Lada tomorrow night, 6 p.m., a bit earlier. And we're going to be talking about paramedics and exactly how it's affected them as well. But no, look, thank you so much, Graham. I really appreciate it. You're a wealth of knowledge, and I can't wait to do this again.
Yeah, I can't wait either, mate. I think you're great, and I'll be watching Johnny Lada tomorrow. He's an awesome human being. It's a pleasure to get to know him. Good on you, buddy. Thank you.
Absolutely.
Good night,
Thank you
everyone.
so much. Everyone, go follow Graham. Go click the link in the top, and good night, everyone. Thanks very much.